Okay. Do y'all like our new table? I built it myself with extensive help from my neighbor. Out of my old decking boards. It's incredible.
Yeah, this is an
Man,
old deck.
I've learned so much from him. So, Sarah, we have had extremely different experiences growing up with friends and just,
Where we stood in the social totem pole.
yeah, and very different experiences. So I just think it's interesting that we got married, because I feel like
Yeah.
that's not normal to have two people who were in come together. So Sarah and I were a part of the same friend group. We had this massive network of friends. And it was all kind of
we were
like
all homeschooled.
yeah, it was
so,
like the Christian homeschool community in Nashville. And back then, that was small, you know what I mean? So we knew pretty much every person, that's an exaggeration, but who homeschooled and who went to churches like in our general vicinity. But somehow we never met, even though we had all of the same friends. I only knew of Sarah on MySpace. She was the MySpace girl with like this awesome picture, and I thought she was really cool. I just never talked to her because, I didn't know her. It was weird, yeah, looking back then, the thought that we never talked until we were in college, but I knew of you I remember your profile picture, back when I was a child. That's what's crazy. And then we didn't meet each other until I was like 18 or 19. I think when I was 19.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
But I know of you too. You were just all my friends' friend, so.
Right, and we made, YouTube videos back in the day before YouTube with Blimey Cow. So we were kind of like, a lot of our friends watched us growing up, and they had our t-shirts and stuff. It was like, it was just a smaller cosmos of what has happened now with Blimey Cow. So it was just kind of not that different. It just kind of expanded.
And I actually saw, the first video I ever saw of yours was actually on MySpace.
Was it really?
Somebody posted on MySpace, and I watched. I just remember exactly what video it was too.
That was before YouTube.
Mhm.
That's crazy that it was that far long ago.
Yeah.
So my perception of Sarah, just from her profile picture and stuff, was that she was accepted. You know what I mean? By a lot of people. That was even when I first met you. That's kind of what I thought, because I thought you were awesome, and we kind of we're interested in a lot of the same things. Like, you were good at a lot of very practical things that most people aren't good at these days. Like, things that you would think of somebody knowing how to do back in, the 1940s. That's what Sarah can do. And she doesn't really know how she knows how to do it. She just knows it when everybody else is just kind of like, oh, well, if this breaks, how do I fix this? How do I sew this thing? Sarah can just cook anything, and it's good. And I feel like that's a skill that's kind of missing these days. Not everybody, but a lot of people. So I was really drawn to that because that's the kind of stuff that I am interested in doing, but was just never very good at it. But I love learning. And so the fact that you were good at this stuff was kind of mysterious to me, because most of my friends didn't know how to do this stuff.
Well, it turns out I had a lot of time to learn all this stuff because I just didn't have any friends.
Yeah, and I didn't know this. I didn't know this for years. This is what I didn't, and I don't know if I'm going to keep this in, but I didn't realize that until I threw a surprise birthday party for you. Do you remember this?
Yes.
And a lot of people came, but people didn't stay that long.
No.
And you were upset about it, and I was I was just confused. You know what I mean? They didn't, it wasn't, let's put it this way, it wasn't like a party that I had as a kid.
No,
it
it's
was
they came because you invited them and then they just left.
Yeah, and it kind of hurt my feelings, I'm not gonna lie. I was just confused. I thought we were having a pretty good time, but so that was the first time that I was okay, so I'm perceiving something differently.
Sarah's a loser.
No, not you're a loser. That's not what I'm saying. I was just, you know what I mean? So with me growing up, I was pretty much friends with everybody. I could make friends with anybody, and it wasn't hard for me. And for Sarah, that was very different. That wasn't really how it was. And I don't quite get it.
I don't really get it either.
What was it like when you were younger, like with your church friends and your church group? Like, did people just not really want to hang out much? Like, what was that like?
So basically, I was just very ignored, which looking back, I see that if I had maybe tried a little bit harder and had a little more confidence, then maybe I could have actually made some friendships. But I kind of got put down a lot. I, would find out later that people just didn't actually want me around.
Even though you thought that they
Which
did,
when I thought we were
it was
friends.
like, oh, this isn't like how I was perceiving it.
Right.
They view this friendship differently.
So I just didn't get invited to do things, and a lot of that also was just kind of on me as well. Like, I wasn't really allowed to go, they'd all go, out after church, and I couldn't do that because I lived on pretty much the opposite side of town of most of the people that I went to church with. So I was just kind of in a different world and didn't kind of live the same life they did.
Right.
And so I think that was a little bit where we just didn't connect on that level, and I wasn't available a lot and things like that. But I think also I was just kind of not, I still am, I'm not with the times at all.
Right.
So I just didn't really fit in, and I don't know.
The weird thing is, the people that kind of ignored her were the people that I was acquainted with and that I would hang out with and, do stuff with them, but, kind of from a distance. I kind of understood. I don't know. It's hard for me to describe. I felt like I ran with a lot of different crowds growing up. I liked hanging out with people who were more outcasts kind of, but they were awesome and I loved hanging out with them. But then I could also
It was me.
Well, I didn't meet you, so there you go.
That's true.
But then I also, was acquainted with people who were in the cool group and stuff like that. Being honest, like the cool group growing up, they were just kind of annoying. And that's not to say that people that are cool are bad. It was just bothered me how much they ignored other people, and it was just their attitude, the culture was just really weird, and I recognized that. And so again, I was friends with everybody, but I didn't want to get too close with those people because you turn into the 5 closest people that you're with, and so anyways, I spent a lot of my time with both groups of people, but with kind of this knowledge and this understanding of don't be like these people. You know what I mean?
It was very exclusive, and so you really couldn't break in.
With our friend group, it was extremely exclusive, and I never really, I don't know. I wish that I had known you when we were younger. That's always the thing I tell you is I feel like we would have been friends, and maybe could have figured out a way to make you not feel so excluded all the time. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around because I just was not like that. I never felt excluded ever. And so to think that you spent basically your entire life feeling excluded, it's sad to me, but it's also just when we have things in our marriage that would come up that might just be okay, why are we not we're just reacting to stuff differently. That is the first thing that always pops into my mind is okay, Sarah's coming at this from the perspective of somebody who's been excluded for years and years and years. And my perception is always, people are trying to include you in things more. Or so it's we just have such a very, very different perspective on sometimes people's intentions because of that. And anyways, I am glad we got married, and I feel like that's really unusual that 2 people who literally grew up in 2 completely different frameworks to come together it's odd. I would say, I don't know that, but I don't know many people that have done that. So they always have that accepting mindset,
right?
And it doesn't broaden their perspective much of what it feels like to be somebody who you felt like you were growing up. Does that make sense what I'm saying? I feel like I just rambled a lot, but
I'm not even making this up. Literally, I went to this one church for my entire childhood and up and through youth group, and people would literally come up to me and say, "Is this your first time?" And I'd be like,
"Man,
we've known each other since we were 3." And then be like, "Oh, sorry."
Dude, that's crazy.
And instead of I wouldn't actually say that. I would just be like, "No, I've been coming here for a while." But that would be what I'm thinking. And instead of like being like, oh wow, like I had no idea we were going to church together, so they're just like, oh sorry, and walk away and not talk to me ever.
Whereas, like, at
So-
my church, our family and another family, like, amongst, like, the youth group and the kids and stuff like that, we were kind of the ones who, like, initiated all of the fun activities that we did at church, or, like, playing football. That was, like, our idea. So we, like, got everybody together to play and stuff. So to think that people, and I was, like, very, very, very involved, like, there with all my friends. It was, like, my life. And to think that you didn't have that, it's just, it hurts my mind, you know, because I'm like, what? I don't even know what that would be like.
When I think back, it's actually really sad because I would always be like, I always had a great attitude though. I'd always go to all the church events and thinking, oh, this time, like, it's gonna be great.
Oh, man.
And I would go and I would end up just like awkwardly standing in a corner the whole time. I'm gonna like cry.
Dude, it's okay.
Don't put this in the video.
I won't. It's okay. It's hard, man.
No, my face is gonna be all red. I'm gonna mess up the video. Do I look fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine.
It's crazy how much, like, stuff like that affects people when they're older, you know? It's like, dang.
Okay, I'm fine.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I just feel bad for you.
Well, don't feel bad.
But I mean, yeah, that just, like, wasn't my experience at all growing up. Like, I was the one who didn't really go to a lot of events. But people were always like, Jordan, are you gonna go to the events and stuff like that? Like, are you gonna be there? And I'm just like, I don't know, maybe I'll go. So yeah, I don't know, it's just different. We just grew up very differently. So but I think when two people like that come together, I think it really, like, kind of makes a person like full, like, circle, you know what I mean? They can see things a lot from, like, both perspectives, is what I'm trying to say. So anyways, I don't really know what else we could say, but I'm glad that we got married.
Me too.
I'm glad that you're who you are.
Did we say everything?